Right. What's up, good and gentle people? Alright, so I'm walking through New Kingston right now. I actually just went to pick up something somewhere and I felt like taking a walk through the city, you know, city vibes. And today I want to talk real quick. I want to do like a walking and talking video. I've never done a video like this in Kingston before. So I want to talk about how to manifest things that you want. Now, I'm not going to call myself like a manifestation expert, right? But I have had certain instances where I've been able to visualize and manifest exactly what I want in certain situations, right? Like exactly. When I was walking down here, I remembered when I was trying to go to Cannes, France. So Cannes, France is where you have the Cannes Film Festival, right? Which is pretty much the biggest film festival in the world, or the most prestigious, right? So the Cannes Film Festival is where I wanted to go for an internship. And the internship was right after I graduated from school, having studied film. So I was like, yo, imagine you graduate on May 10th and on May 11th in France at the world's biggest film festival. So my mission was to go to France, apply for the internship, and get selected with my script. And I remember that I just used to like fantasize about a couple of different things. I saw myself walking down the streets of Cannes. I saw myself eating crepes. I saw myself smelling the sea air. I got really visual with it, right? And what ended up happening was, when I got to France, the feeling was so similar to what I had envisioned. I also did that with another internship. Like I got the internship to Comedy Central, right? So Comedy Central is at the MTV offices in New York. And I remember it's one of America's most competitive internships because there are only 6 places. And at the time it was called the Chris Rock internship. So the interns were called Rock Turns because Chris Rock started internship to give people of color, I don't like that term, but people of color meaning if you're black, Latino, whatever, right? African, Latino, minorities. It's a minority design scholarship to help you get access to the opportunities that are in a place like that. And I remember what I did was I was one of 6 people in America selected. So probably one of the most competitive internships you can imagine. And what I did was, in addition to writing a really funny script that I knew would grab their attention, I also did heavy visualization. In fact, I visualized my interview to such an extent that when the interview was happening, like the exact questions from the interview that I'd practiced and rehearsed over and over ended up being the same ones that they asked me, right? And then I also spent a lot of time visualizing living in New York because I'd been there for a couple months, right? And visualize living in New York, going on a train, having coffee at a cafe or something, you know? And when the things ended up happening, it was so powerful because I had visualized it before. So one of the main things, and one of the biggest first steps I realized, is to visualize what you want almost exactly with the feeling. Now, I'm gonna sit down in this park for a second because it is hot. So, visualize what you want with the exact feeling of having what you want already, right? That's step 1. Because I got so good at feeling like I was in France, feeling like I was in New York, that when the internship came, or they gave me the email and said I was selected, it didn't feel unusual to me, right? And in many other occasions, if I'm able to maintain the feeling consistently over time, what I want tends to come to me. And when you read books like Think and Grow Rich, when you listen to people like Brian Tracy and they talk about the superconscious, And even if you listen to stuff like The Secret, any of these things that you're listening to, if you read Neville Goddard and those kind of people, the main things that they always emphasize is they emphasize holding on to the feeling of what you have before it happens. That's like one of the main things, right? And the trick is to master holding on to the feeling of having what you don't have for an extended period of time. Now think about this, right? If you're a person who wants to, say, become a famous artist, or you want to manifest some kind of like job, or maybe even something that you've never actually done before, you have to ask yourself a question. The question is, if you've never done something before, how do you create the feeling of having what you've never done before? And then how do you maintain that feeling? And it's not easy, because it's not just like getting excited about what you're gonna do, it's actually getting excited about what you're doing, and then at the same time staying in that feeling for long periods of time. So I saw myself in France, I saw myself in New York, and what kept me going, because you know, it was a couple months before the internship, was everywhere I walked, because I was living in DC at the time, going to school, I would just walk around and I would imagine myself in New York, right? Imagine myself in France. I would imagine myself eating French food, trying to speak French. I'd imagine myself on the flight every single day. And I wasn't like overly excited. I just had this simple feeling with it, right? And I said, yeah, I can see myself there. I can feel myself there. And then it ended up happening. And there are many more stories I have on manifestation, but this is probably one of, if not the strongest thing I've noticed with them, right? Because I also had to take a trip to Bangkok a couple years back, and trust me, I wanted to shoot my first music video in Bangkok, something I thought was impossible, right? I was like, I don't have the money, I don't know anybody in Bangkok, it's an international production, I don't know any videographers, blah blah blah. There are all these things I didn't have, but I said, I'm deciding to go, and I said, the way will come. And the way did come 8 months later. And when it started to kick off, I'm telling you, I did the same thing again. I was just like, oh, I just saw myself in Bangkok, chilling in my studio apartment that I'm renting, sleeping in the AC, you know, taking the train, walking around the city, doing my video shoot. And it was like so real to me before it happened, that when it happened, it was just like mind-blowing. Because I remember when I first walked into the studio apartment I was renting somewhere in the city, and I said to myself, wow, you know, this feels exactly what like I felt in my mind. Like, I saw myself staying somewhere before I even booked Airbnb or whatever, and when I went there, it felt exactly how I thought it would feel before I even found the right Airbnb, right? And as I'm trying to manifest some new things right now, I just kind of wanted to share that with you guys, because it's like, there are many aspects to it, and I can go deeper, but I just want to talk about visualization. Really, is that this takes a lot of mental control. You have to be able to stay focused on what you're trying to do for long periods of time. And depending on how visual you are and how excited you are, the universe actually moves very quickly. But the trick is to not let life mess with your brain while you're trying to do these things, right? Because what happens is that, let's say you're feeling bad about something, or you're feeling bad about a relationship, or you're feeling bad about work, or something else. Let's say your dominant thoughts is feeling bad about something, or a large percentage of your thoughts, let's say 40%, or let's say 40% of your thoughts are like work stress, 30% is like life stress, so that's 70% of your thoughts, and then 30% of your thoughts, you know, split between family and all kind of things, right? You're not putting your dominant mental energy on what you're trying to achieve. You get me? So the trick is to change those numbers somehow. And most of your time has to be spent in a place where you're thinking about what you want to achieve, or most of your activities. No, this doesn't mean like you sit down 24 hours a day thinking about what you want to achieve. That's not how it works. It's more like you stay on the frequency of that more often than possible. And in the book called The Power by the lady who wrote The Secret, forgetting her name right now, She said that all you really need is 51% of the time to have that feeling. It doesn't have to be 100%, it's just more than 50. So that's why I give the example like 40% of your attention is on one thing, 30% on another. If 70% of your attention is on negative things, then those things will be your dominant reality. But if you have 51% and over of thinking of the things you want in the future, right, then they tend to eventually come, because you're not slipping below that. You're allowing what's called your superconscious to operate within your subconscious body and help you to start making a universal connection so other things can happen. You get me? And I think that's one of like the most important things that you can do. And what I found to do this is that you have to cut out a lot of distractions from your life that don't serve you. For example, if you have things that you do that just waste time. So for example, like I don't watch certain kinds of movies, I don't listen to certain kinds of music, I don't spend time with certain kinds of people, or just people I don't really, there's just certain things I don't really do, because every one of those activities takes up a part of my energy and starts putting things in my mind that I may not want there, right? So I want to control the majority of what goes into my mind, right? So I don't watch certain kinds of news, I don't do certain kinds of things, you know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, people might think the way I operate now is a bit extreme, but I wanted as much control of my thoughts as possible. Especially what happened over the last couple of years, where the world was forcing you, or trying to force you how to think, right? So if you're trying to create things in your reality, in your objective reality, one of the main things that you have to do is you have to massively prioritize. Howdy. Hey, what's up? Whoa, you know, I thought about you the other day. Yeah, because I was thinking about the hatchback Civic. Oh. How you been? Yo, I forgive you, hug, man. Yeah. I haven't seen you in years. What's up? What you?
Lord, that must be
What?
I'm supposed to be somebody in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's happening? I see you vlogging.
I'm trying to.
You're trying to.
Yeah.
You must know from me. He's in the parking lot.
When is the last time I've seen him?
Long time.
I don't think I've seen him since he came back from Sweden or something like that. No, man.
Of course.
No, I said shortly after he came back from Sweden.
Okay, yeah, probably. Sure, yeah.
Wow, but you look exactly the same. Give me a secret now.
So now you know the same too?
I don't think so.
Just your hair has gotten longer.
No, but your hair look cool, sister.
Yeah, oh yeah, man, I come in. I'm in the park.
Oh, I didn't even know you're in Jamaica.
Yeah, I've been back since I started. The last time I saw you, it was at.
Oh, this is like my mind is blown right now.
Why?
Yo, you know, in the presence of greatness, yo.
Oh Lord. Well, that's you, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
All right.
I'll try to stay late.
Yeah. Later. Alright, that was just crazy, you know. I haven't seen, we're talking about manifestation. I'm doing this live video on manifestation, and that who we saw just right now, I thought about her like 2 days ago, because a long time ago there was a car here in Jamaica called a hatchback Civic, Honda hatchback Civic. That was like the hottest thing, right? Because you had the Honda, yeah, it's Jamaica, so Hondas are big, and then they had this hatchback version that came out the first time. This is like in the 90s. And early 2000s, and she had one. And everybody's like, yo, she has a hatchback Civic. So I was thinking about her, and she just walked past me. So I don't remember what my last point was, but I think I was saying, stay 51% of the time, maintain what you're trying to work on. And then you're gonna start seeing all these alignments happen. And make yourself open to what I call the breadcrumbs. The universe used to tend to like sprinkle breadcrumbs to make you think about things you could do or opportunities. So if you want to manifest like money, you might get an email saying enter this competition. If you're trying to think of something you should do relative to a goal you're trying to achieve, you tend to run into somebody who has a suggestion, or you're going to see something or read something that makes you go, When that happens, that's a breadcrumb. And you really think about it. Like, I've missed so many of them, but you just think about it. And I'm going to tell you about my last, no, I'm actually going to save that for another video. But yeah, that's basically it. You know, right now we're here in a park in New Kingston, opposite Sagicor, and I just felt like making this video, you know, because the mind is more powerful than we think, a lot more powerful than we think. And I manifested some crazy things, but I never did it consistently. And I didn't understand why. Because, you know, sometimes you try and manifest some stuff and it's like bam, bam, bam. Like I've had some crazy times where I manifest like computer, flight travel, this to that. And then they're just like years where you can't manifest anything. And then you say to yourself, well, why was I manifesting stuff then? And why can't I manifest stuff otherwise? And the reality is that what was your dominant thoughts at the time you weren't manifesting? And I don't even like necessarily to always call it manifesting, but what were your dominant thoughts? Because think about it, right? This is an iPhone, an old iPhone. But a lot of times when people want to buy a brand new phone, they obsess over it. They go on YouTube, they watch reviews, they learn all the specs. They see themselves having a phone. They visualize the excitement they're gonna have taking the pictures and the videos with the phone. And more they start building up and amping up this frequency of having it until the feeling of having it is no different than owning the phone, and then usually that's when they get the phone. This is how you want to treat a lot of the things you're trying to do, right? The feeling of it has to feel no different in your mind than reality. And a lot of the times when things have worked out for me, that's exactly what happened. The feeling of having it was so close to reality that reality just had to catch up. The last thing I'll tell you is that I did that with a laptop one time, right? Because this was like in 2014. I was in New York for a couple of weeks and my laptop was just like it was just in a terrible state, like my MacBook Pro. Both of the fans were like, you know, you turn on a computer, the fans are screaming, it's running hella slow, and I wanted to upgrade. And where I was staying was my aunt's apartment, and right beside her apartment was a Best Buy. And at that Best Buy, I would go in there every day, and they had these brand new MacBook Pros just right there on the counter. And every day I'd go in there and use one of the MacBook Pros for maybe like 5 minutes. So I'd type on it, I'd surf the internet, I'd do some stuff with the MacBook Pro, and just imagine myself using it like it's mine. And then what ended up happening was, after maybe like a week, 2 weeks of doing that, I couldn't tell the difference between having a MacBook Pro and not, because I knew the dimensions of it, I knew the weight of it, I knew how the keys felt on my fingers. The feeling of having it was so real. And once the feeling reached that point where in my mind couldn't tell the difference between me having it and not having it, within like 3 days I had one. I just organized, I had some money, I raised some other money, and I bought the same model from someone that was barely used with a 1.5 year warranty for maybe like, I don't remember what the price was, but within 3 days of deciding I had it, my MacBook. And when I came back into the apartment, opened it, it blew my mind because it's the same exact model I've been using at Best Buy, right? So I got into the feeling, and it taught me that the feeling is the key. The feeling of having what you want very, very strongly before you want it is very important. And it applies to almost anything you're trying to manifest. And it's not something that we're taught to train how to develop this feeling, right? We're not really taught that. So that's something very powerful. Because, you know, like sometimes things come to us and we don't know why. Like you think, you know, you want like a pair of shoes and somebody's like, yo, I have these shoes. Or what we do sometimes, we don't realize that we're putting our dominant focus on things that we want and the universe sends them to us. But other things that we want, our dominant focus is not there, or our belief is very low. You get me? So I know it's a long video, but just wanted to chat about that. Gonna head off and start my work day. Boom.